just for the record, I have a lot of Gen 4 and 5 on this list. Ethereal glass, ethereal chandelier, ethereal cry, and it sounds ethereal. It's ethereal, it's beautiful. Welcome everyone, finally, to Tyranee's worst Pokemon Cries list, and this time I'm being joined by a special guest.
How's it going, guys? JamietheComic here. When it comes to Pokemon, my knowledge only extends to, really, generations 1 and 2. I was very late into the Pokemon craze, especially considering I only owned Pokemon on Game Boy Advance when I was younger. But as soon as I got my hands on my own copies, I obviously fell in love with those cute little bastards. Chikorita, you're so fucking adorable! Gens 3 and 4 is when I started realising they were just repeating the same shit. So I wasn't as into it as many people would like me to be. But I know enough from Gens 1 through 4 to be able to spot an ear-raping sound.
As opposed to last time, where we only covered Gens 1 to 4, this time we're covering all of Generation 1 to 6. These terrible cries all range from simply unfitting to massive ear rape, so I hope you're all ready to go deaf. How about you, Jamie?
I'm as ready as an anime fan on prom night. But before we get into the worst of the worst, it was extremely hard picking only 5, so we're going to mention some that were very close to making the cut.
So, without further ado, here are the dishonorable mentions. Starting with Generation 1.
The first generation had arguably the worst cries out of all the generations. This is mainly because Pokemon was new and hadn't been refined yet. The limitation of technology at the time also contributed to a few strange cries, and cries that were repeated on one or more Pokemon. For example, Goldeen and Caterpie. But some were worse than others. Some make it on this list because they sound like Satan screaming out of shit. Some because they sound like 4-bit garbage. But some, like this dishonorable mention, make it on the list because they don't even sound like they belong. It's Fearow. Fearow's cry sounds too high-pitched and chirpy to be an angry vulture. This isn't a bird of freedom. This is a bird of picking up the leftovers, and should be made to sound like one.
Not to mention it's a terrible Pokemon in-game and out. The next dishonorable mention is the Abra evolution line.
Hey Peter, you want to hear my impression of Abra?
Sure. And that's why it sucks.
And that's why it sucks, yes.
Moving on to Generation 2.
Thankfully, we only had to wait until Generation 2 to have the technology and budget to improve the overall quality in the sound department. Sounds were more clear and defined, and each cry sounded different for once.
And getting into the cries that sounded different but still sounded awful, we're going to talk about Spinarak. While being a fitting cry for a spider kept this off the top 5 list for me, this high-pitched squeal really hurt my ears. Imagine having a symphony of Spinaraks yelling at one another like this while you're walking through a dark forest.
Hey Peter, how long until we get out of this forest?
What? I can't hear you!
What? You want me to shear you?
Yeah, I could really go for a beer right about now!
Bear? What bear?
So there we have it, Spinarak, a fitting but deafening cry. However, this is only the tip of the iceberg though. Jamie is up next with a Generation 2 cry that's bad, but for entirely different reasons.
To me, Corsola just sounds like a screaming toddler. It does make you wonder why. Why does it scream in the first place? Were they refused ice cream? Did another child in play school snatch a toy from them? I hate not knowing, and I hate this cry because of it.
Is that seriously your only reason?
Why wouldn't it be?
While I admit I was never a huge fan of Gen 3, it did continue the improvement train in a lot of ways. One of those was, of course, Cries. Speaking on improvements, one of the things Jamie and I discovered, starting with Generation 3, was that we actually identified less cries as bad on our list per generation the later we got in the Pokemon series. We had more bad cries for Gen 3 than 4, for Gen 2 than 3, and etc. Cry quality seems to be one of those improvements that gets overlooked when the new Pokemon games are released. That said, Gen 3 still had plenty of stinkers. Here are a couple of them. Starting with the Trico line. Trico, admittedly, is my least favorite starter of all time. Part of that has to do with how awful its evolution line's movesets are in Gen 3, but ultimately I just feel like there's nothing exciting about the line itself.
Trico is the best starter ever! Dislike! Unsubscribe!
Yeah, alright, fine. I guess it gets better movesets in future generations. Whatever. That discussion, however, is for another time. Today we're talking about the Trico line's cries. While they aren't the worst in the series, I would rather see Trico and Grovyle as having higher pitch cries than they do, and I don't feel like what they have fits. It's like the creators tried to take a couple of geckos and turn them into dinosaurs prematurely. Sceptile admittedly fits a little better with this deep dinosaur-like cry, but with the docile-looking sprite of this Pokemon, it seems much too intense. It's like giving Godzilla's cry to a Brontosaurus. Next dishonorable mention in Gen 3 is Spoink. This thing's adorable, so why does it have such a low-pitched cry when it's tiny and cute? I understand that it's a pig grunt, but I feel it could fit the Spoink image better if it were pitched higher. Grumpig's cry is only slightly deeper too, and that's a full-grown swine right there. I went to the liberty of pitching up Spoink's cry myself, so you guys can see what I mean. Now tell me that doesn't work better.
It doesn't.
Fine, be that way. Generation 4, starting with Abomasnow.
This is only on the list because the cry sounds like he's at a rock concert and I'm just jealous because I want to go.
Alright, all you crazy metal fans, how are you doing tonight? Next up is Regigigas. This thing's cry sounds like an industrial dubstep gone wrong. It's not bad enough noise to make it on the bottom 5 list, but it's major ear rape. Drop the bass, Regigigas! Generation 5. This was the generation that got me back into Pokemon, and the cries in this one are amazing. As most critics of Gen 5 would tell you, though, it's not without its many flaws. And these cries are 2 of them. Ah! Nails on a chalkboard! Make it stop! This didn't make the top 5 list because of how fitting it was for this Pokemon, but that doesn't mean you won't go deaf after hearing it. It's a noisy, horrible cry, and it'll make your ears bleed. Oh god, not again, please, let's just move on!
Stunfisk's cry pretty much matches what we feel about it. It's absolute crap. This is one of the worst Pokemon in Gen 5, with one of the worst cries. And it's even harder to believe it doesn't even make it on the bottom 5 list. I mean, what even is this thing? A whoopee cushion?
Generation 6. This generation had a cry overhaul to match the graphic and gameplay overhaul that was brought to the 3DS, and all of it was really for the better. In fact, the cries in this gen were so good that we only found 2 Pokemon cries in Gen 6 that we thought didn't work very well. First dishonorable mention is Dragalge. Absolute ear rape, and I don't think it really fits the way the Pokemon looks either. This didn't make the list because I understand what the creators were going for here. They wanted like a Scourge of the Deep kind of dragon Pokemon that sounded as intimidating as its typing. However, I think they went a bit overboard. This Pokemon doesn't look as disturbing as its cry, and I think what would fix it is if they kept the same noises but just toned it down a lot. And the second one is Gourgeist.
Is that a ghost burping and farting at the same time? Enough said. Let's move on to the top 5 worst cries of all time.
Number 5.
Okay, let me just set the mood. You are the sound designer for Pokemon. Months of research have given you the perfect sound for the new Pokemon that's been submitted to you. And you couldn't be happier. However, everyone was so caught up in the idea that they could make a sound that nobody even considered whether they should. It's a fucking mime! Why does it even have a cry in the first place?
Number 4. Moltres. This sounds like a bird that got caught in a garbage disposal. Not only is its cry underwhelming compared to the other legendary birds, it's also ear rape that randomly just ends. It cuts off so abruptly that it almost seems like a mistake. I wasn't joking earlier in the video when I said Gen 1 had a lot of bad cries. And this one definitely burns. Yeah!
No.
Oh, you don't want me to put that in there?
No, the pun was shit. Number 3. Speaking of awful cries for awful Pokemon, when I talked about Stunfisk earlier, I may have mentioned it sounded like a whoopee cushion. But whoopee cushions represent a figurative fart. This Pokemon gives you a literal one. Who's that Pokemon? It's Skunk Tank!
Now, come on, Game Freak. Do we really need a Pokemon that actually farts on you the moment it comes out in battle? What makes its cry even worse is Skuntank's Gen 4 sprite. That is not safe for kids. Hell, that's not even safe for adults. Get it out of here. Let's move on. Number 2.
Metapod just sounds like he's pissed and constipated. I guess if you're a Caterpie spending months inside of a cocoon, there's not much opportunity to poop.
On a less disgusting note, this is another example of a very docile-looking Pokemon having a cry that's way too intense. Considering Metapod's a cocoon, without a visible mouth, I might add, you have to wonder why it even makes a noise, much less this long, drawn-out buzzing sound. It's definitely ear rape, but it's ear rape that doesn't make a lick of sense. Number 1. And the title of least fitting Pokemon ear rape that will make you deaf and give you a migraine for a week goes to... Dusk Noir! Not only does this sound not fit the slow bulkiness of this Pokemon, it's also a horrid, unpleasant noise to listen to.
To make a Dusk Noir cry, you need to stack the following noises on top of one another. Ghost burps, ghost farts, industrial dubstep, and a ruined childhood. This is awful.
In our opinion, Dusk Noir's cry is by far the very worst noise in 6 generations. We hope you enjoyed this video, and while lists are not the Let's Dub Project specialty, there may be more of these lists in the future based on your feedback. In the meantime, check out our channel to see the awesome videos we normally do and subscribe for more! Jamie has a channel too, and an awesome website which you should also totally go check out.
Thanks for having me, Peter, and to those of you who do not know who I am, I'm JamietheComic. I review movies, video games over on my YouTube channel, JamietheComic, and I'm also the creator of Cries.com. Cries.com is a collaborative website filled with content all about anime, gaming, comics, and everything in between. Hope to see you there. Keep on being awesome.
Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you guys on our next video. Bye!
Bye.